Joining us now is our great friend, Louisiana Congressman, Republican Whip, Steve Scalise. Mr. Scalise, you don't look as happy as I am, but I think these two numbers are devastating for the Biden bill. In fact, I'm thinking, sir, that not only Manchin and Sinema, but a couple of other so-called moderate Democrats are going to take a look at these numbers and run scared. What you thinking about this?
Yeah, Larry, and it's never a good day when you see inflation numbers this high. In fact, you have to go back to 1982 to find numbers this high on inflation. And of course, as our good friend Art Laffer will tell you, what they did back then to fix the problem and to get inflation under control was not to raise taxes and spending. They cut taxes, and they got our economy back on track by cutting taxes and controlling spending. We know the formula that needs to apply, and that's why, as you said, I wish you would have coined the term, save America, kill the bill, because it applies. Don't pause it until February. Pause it and throw it into the scrap heap of history, because raising taxes, trillions of dollars, we asked for that Congressional Budget Office report that just came out today to say, show us what the full 10-year picture would be. And as you mentioned, devastating, $4.9 trillion, not $1.5 trillion. And by the way, $1.5 trillion would be a devastating number in terms of spending and taxes that would kill American jobs and add more inflation. So we know what this would do. It would make matters worse if you added more spending and inflation, and voters have figured this out. They have equated the two. Spending in Washington equals more inflation for you at home, at the pump, at the grocery store, everywhere you go. So save America, kill the bill is a mantra, but it's also something that we just need to keep pushing, because more and more people find out about this bill. They don't want it. This is something that, it's not a Christmas present under the tree. This is something that needs to be burned in the fire. And then ultimately, let's go back to working on those fundamentals that always worked, like they did in '82. They cut taxes, they got inflation under control, and had one of the great economic recoveries like we've ever seen. Let's go do that again.
Listen, I was there in '82. I was there.
Yeah,
Reagan's
you
first
were there
term.
too.
But listen, Steve, I'm saying these are shocking numbers to a lot of people. Now, the inflation trend has been in place. Today's number just continues it. But 7% or so, 6.8 over the past year, the biggest in 4 decades, is a big number. And the CBO punctures all of the fictions provided by the Biden administration and their allies in Congress. It is not paid for. It is not a small $2 trillion, smaller $2 trillion. The deficits are going to be very significant. And I'm not even sure, Steve, I want to look at this. I used to do this stuff myself. I want to take a look at the revenue assumptions, because I think they may be too generous. But anyway, the point is, it's about a $5 trillion bill. Now, isn't that, I know you're in the House, you're the whip in the House, but Senate side, isn't that going to really upset and shock a whole bunch of people?
Yeah, I think it will. And go look at the House vote from 2 weeks ago. We were able to hold all Republicans against it. And in fact, we had one Democrat that voted no. If we just have one Democrat in the Senate vote no, the bill is dead. And then we can get back to the fundamentals that work. But these numbers are devastating. But everybody knows when Joe Biden said there's no cost to it. I don't think there's anybody in Washington or in Middle America that believed it. But these are the same people that said, if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. And then they said, pass Obamacare so that we can find out what's in it. We found out what's in it. Millions of people lost their health care, even though they promised they wouldn't. This will cost you a lot of money. In fact, it's already costing families in terms of higher inflation for the trillions that were spent earlier this year. $1.9 trillion President Biden rammed through Congress right when he became president. That's, by the way, also the time that he said, kill the Keystone Pipeline, kill drilling in America, allow pipelines for Russia, allow drilling for OPEC countries. And that's why we're paying 60%, 40 to 60% more for gasoline at the pump. People have seen this playbook before. They don't want it to be run a second time. They'd like to see Washington get control on spending, lower taxes so that we can actually raise wages and raise real income for families and get rid of this inflation that's taking money out the pockets primarily of lower income families.
Steve Scalise's question pops into my mind. What would have happened if we had had an honest score from the CBO prior to the House vote, right? So they had these one-year gimmicks. When you look at the CBO printout, it all surrounds these one-year gimmicks. And if you raise them, if you put them out 10 years, that's where the bulk of the doubling of the spending is going to be. Actually, it's more than doubling. Yeah, this wouldn't have passed the House, would it? If you'd had an honest score, it wouldn't have passed the House.
Well, unfortunately, it would have, because a lot of the people that voted for it are the ones who created the budget gimmicks, because they saw that the price tag was high and they had a choice to make, Larry. They could have actually cut some of the spending, which we were telling them to do. But instead, they didn't want to cut any of the spending. They were frothing at the mouth to spend more money. So they imposed budget gimmicks. They moved dates around, expiration dates around. So the SALT tax deduction, for example, it's a big giveaway to millionaires and billionaires in 5 states. But they changed the dates so that it looked like it wasn't going to cost as much. It's going to cost $250 billion for that one provision to give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. They knew that. They just moved the numbers to try to trick everybody in America. Their problem is, especially in the Senate, is that now hardworking families are finding out they're the ones that are going to be paying more to give those tax breaks away for things like charging stations for electric vehicles, but only if the electric vehicles are union made. Those kind of things are what are disgusting. People, as they're finding out about it, that's our best chance to kill the bill. More transparency. Turn the ray of sunshine is our best disinfectant against this crazy big government socialism.
Well, I think, these two numbers, the CPI number and the CBO numbers, they're going to resonate through the country in the next few days. It will be covered. The White House is going to have to try and explain it. They will not be able to explain it. They will bungle it. You guys have much better communication skills because you have the truth. The truth will set you free. I mean, I think, Steve Scalise, I may be wrong, but I think this is a pivotal moment. I think these numbers today really, I'm not going to say kill the bill, although that's my hope, but this sure will get the mansions.
It exposes the fallacy of the bill.
Right.
And look, voters in Virginia figured it out. Voters in New Jersey, that Senate president who was beat by a truck driver who didn't really spend that much money, maybe $1,000 he spent. I think that's what scares Democrats the most, is they realize, wow, even with this guy's millions of dollars that he spent, he was beat by a guy just because he had an R next to his name, and the incumbent was a Democrat, and people are fed up with what these Democrats in Washington are doing to spend money like it's out of control. Voters have figured it out. Maybe some people in Washington will figure it out, too.
Then you do have a smile on your face, sir.
I do. I do. And it's Christmas time, Larry.
I know.
I'm always happy this time of year. I know you are as well.
You are the best. You yourself are a miracle. Anyway, thanks for your time, Steve Scalise. As always, sir.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon.
God bless and Merry Christmas.
Yes, sir.